everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you guys my end of June reading wrap up. So I'm going to be discussing all of the books that I read in about the last 2 weeks of the month. As usual, if you want to check out my mid-month wrap up, which is a video where I discuss the books that I read in the first half of the month, I will of course have that linked up in the cards above. So we have quite a few books to talk about, just like with every wrap up I do. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first 5 books I actually have to discuss, I did a reading vlog for, where I read some of Riley Marie's absolute favorite romance novels of all time. That reading vlog will also be linked up in the cards above. I had a really fun time doing this vlog. I definitely want to do more of this style of reading vlog where I pick a particular booktuber and I pick out some of their favorite books that I've never read before and see how I like them. But the books that I read for this vlog, I'm just gonna kind of quickly list them out for you, because if you want in-depth thoughts, you can definitely just check out that reading vlog. But the first one I read for that was Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. Gave this one 5 stars. This is just such a sweet medieval historical romance. Takes place in Scotland. It involves a heroine whose death, and it's fantastic. Then we have Killing Sarai by J.A. Redmersky. This is book 1 in the In the Company of Killers series. Gave this one 3 stars. It was just fine for me. After that I read Transcendence by Shay Savage. Also ended up giving this 3 stars, unfortunately. This was a book that I really thought I was going to love. Unfortunately didn't work out for me that way. But then after that I went into Go Deep by Rilsey Adams. Gave this one 4 stars. This is a really great friends to lovers romance novella. Really great. And then the last book that I read for that reading vlog was Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert. This is book 1 in her A Touch of Taboo series, and had to give it 5 stars. Katie Robert is a queen. Oh my goodness. I put this in my Goodreads review, quite possibly the filthiest book I've ever read, and I absolutely adored it. This is definitely erotica, an erotic romance, but there is a happily ever after at the end. It's just absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to read more of the books in this series. So then next up we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is her most recent release. I'm gonna give you a kind of a basic synopsis of this book, but I went into this book blind and I think I enjoyed it even more because I did that. Essentially though, it's about these 4 siblings. They live in Malibu. They are all surfers. Their father is Mick Riva, and there's a really interesting connection between this book and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is another book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Actually, I have it right here. There's the spine right there because I plan on rereading it. But Mick Riva, who is a prominent character in this book, he was, I believe, husband number 3 in this book. So I thought that that was really cool, really interesting. I didn't know that at the time that I read this, and I kind of wish that I did, but at the same time, I'm glad that I went into this blind. So I don't know. This takes place over the course of 24 hours, but there's also a lot of flashbacks to the past when their father Mick Riva and their mother meet, and kind of going through that whole history into the childhood of these 4 siblings, into their adulthood and everything. You know, so it's essentially just about a family, but there's definitely a lot going on in this book. Kind of has a bit of a suspenseful plot as well. I don't want to spoil anything, but just thought I would mention that. I did end up giving this 4 stars. As much as I adore Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, I feel like this story just kind of fell a little short for me personally. I don't think it's quite as good as 7 Husbands or Daisy Jones and the Six. Next up, I read One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halley. This is literally the perfect summer romance read. It takes place in the Tuscany area of Italy, and it's just everything. So this is about our heroine Grace, and she is a writer who for the longest time has been writing with another author. They were an author duo, publishing books together. And so this author has recently passed away, actually from like a car accident. It was very sudden, and so Grace is still very much reeling from this loss because that author was such an amazing friend to her, but also, you know, her business partner. And so now she's trying to write books on her own, and that has not been going well. And so her agent, I believe, sends her to this villa that she owns in Italy. But it turns out that this man, Claudio, and his son, Vanni, actually live there, and the plot further thickens because Claudio is actually the ex-husband of Grace's agent. So yeah, there's definitely kind of a forbidden element going on in this romance because she doesn't want to offend her agent. She doesn't want to lose her agent, you know? So yeah, this is a single parent romance. I love that trope, and I think it's done so well in this book. I loved following a heroine who's an author. You really understand the struggles that authors can go through, especially with writer's block and things like that. I thought Claudio was like the perfect hot single dad. I mean, and he's Italian. I mean, come on. And as usual with Karina Alley, the sex scenes were chef's kiss. There's even a bit of kink involved, which is fun. So highly recommend this one. Gave this 5 stars. Also, what I love about this novel and a lot of the novels that I've read by Hallie is that she just knows how to write books in other types of settings. You know, this one taking place in Italy, like you really feel like you are in Italy when you read this book. Next up is quite a different book for me. This is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, book 1 in the Nevermore series. This is a middle grade fantasy series, and there's definitely some Harry Potter vibes involved, but it's definitely its own unique story for sure. We are following our main character, Morgan, and her whole life, she has believed that she is what's known as like a cursed child, and that she causes any bad thing around her to happen. Any bad thing that happens, she always gets blamed for it. And then randomly, this man, Jupiter North, comes and takes her to this secret city of Nevermore, and he introduces her to this society called the Wondrous Society. But in order for Morgan to join the society, she has to pass 4 trials. This was just such a fun, adorable, and whimsical story. I am looking forward to reading more into the series. So far, 3 books are out. I think the 3rd book came out, I want to say last year, so pretty recently. Yeah, it was just really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It didn't completely blow me away, but I think it is a really great middle grade novel. Also, every time that I show this book, I just have to show the naked hardback. I mean, can we discuss? This is the UK hardcover edition, by the way, and it is just stunning. All right, guys, next up we got a Jessica Kane novella. You knew that I was gonna bring up at least 2 of those in this video. So this one is My Husband, My Stalker. This is another one of her stalker romances, of course. So this one is about our main characters, Evan and Jolie. In the past, before this novella starts, Jolie was kidnapped by this man that she worked with that became obsessed with her, and so she's dealing with that trauma. And then we have Evan, who sees a story about her on the news and just immediately falls in love with her and becomes obsessed with her. And so he decides to make himself into her perfect man because he's a hitman. He's definitely a hardened person. Definitely not really the type of person that Jolie would want in her life, considering her traumatic past. And so Jolie and Evan quickly get together once they meet, and they do end up getting married, of course, hence the title. And while Jolie thinks that he's this pretty normal dude who's an insurance salesman, he is definitely not an insurance salesman, and he stalks her whenever she's not at home with him. So yeah, gave this 5 stars. I think this is another fantastic stalker romance from Jessica Kane. I think she writes that really well. And I think she writes that so well because she's so good at writing possessive and obsessive heroes, and having a stalker hero is that on the extreme level. Also, this was just as hot as a lot of the other Jessica Kane novellas that I've read, and there's plenty of daddy kink to go around, which is typical for Jessica Kane as well. So basically, after reading My Husband, My Stalker, I decided to read like 5 more novellas because I am just absolutely obsessed with romance novellas at the moment. So the next one that I read was Set by Alexandria House. This is book 1 in the Them Boys series. This is a very short novella. The audiobook was like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And what I liked about this one is that it features older main characters. They're both in their early 40s, and I remember that the heroine is a single mother. yeah, I just said if you're looking for a short and sweet, hot as hell novella, then look no further. I'm really looking forward to reading more from Alexandria House because I've heard people rave about some of her other novellas, not just the ones in this series, so really looking forward to that. Next up, I read His Beauty by Jack Harbin. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It stays pretty close to the movie that we all know and love, the main difference here being that the Beast character stays a literal beast the entire time. So it's essentially a monster romance. So if you're not here for that, you're not gonna like this novella at all. But I really enjoyed this one because the Belle-like character, I cannot remember her name, I wanna say it was Isla or something like that. She's probably the strongest Belle character I've ever read in this kind of story. Like, she is just so fierce. You know, there's this battle scene towards the end of the novella. There's this angry mob that shows up to the castle very close to the animated movie, right? And like, she is just so iconic. She takes up a sword and just starts killing people, and it's just absolutely amazing. And there's plenty of sexy times thrown in, and I thought that was all very well done. So I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to reading more from Jack Harbin because I've heard that all of his books are very, very different from one another. Like, I don't think he's written another fantasy romance like this. So I definitely have a few of his other novellas on my radar for sure. Then after that, I went into yet another Jessa Kane novella. So this time I went into Husky. So this is one of her big boy romances. That's how she brands them. I still don't know what I want to refer to plus size men as. Some people use the term husky. Some people use the term big boys. I'm not a fan of big boys, but I mean, it is what it is. But this one, I really liked the plot because it's about our heroine Parker. She's a fashion designer. She's 21. Living in New York City, and she won this very Project Runway-like show, and now she's putting on her first official runway show as her own brand, and she is very stressed out. She does not like how her men's line is turning out. She's fine with the women's line, but she just feels very uninspired, mainly by the models that she has for the men's line. And so she decides to get some air, goes to this random dive bar in New York and meets this man, Dawes, who is the bartender. He is a big boy or husky, however you want to refer to him. And she is just immediately inspired by his look. And so as soon as they meet, I mean, Jessa Kane writes this so well, but there is this immediate attraction and connection between these two people. They very quickly become very obsessed with one another. And I loved this so much because I just loved seeing Parker like design all of these clothes for a bigger man. You definitely don't see that type of man on runways ever. You know, I thought that was so cool. As usual, the sexy times were great. I also loved that they both felt that they were unworthy of each other. I like that trope as well. So yes, absolutely fantastic. Again, had to give this 5 stars. Then we have Maybe Next Time by Christina C. Jones. This is book 1 in her Vegas Nights series. So this is a novella. It's a marriage and trouble story. So we have Kenza and Denver, and their marriage has not been going well for the past few years. I do want to mention content warning for miscarriage. That's definitely one of the things that starts to get in the way of their marriage. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of communication issues. And so Kenza gets to the point where she feels like she has no other option than to get a divorce. So she has divorce papers served to him, and Denver basically goes off and he essentially kidnaps her to try to get her to talk to him and to actually communicate. So that's the main reason why I wanted to read this, because a marriage in trouble with kidnapping, like, sign me up. That sounds like a good dramatic time. I thought this was really great. I gave this one 4 stars. I thought that there were some really hot steamy scenes, but there were also some very swoon-worthy moments. Definitely highly recommend this one for sure. This was my first Christina C. Jones novella, and it certainly won't be my last. I know that Jess raves and raves and raves about Christina C. Jones. And then the last book that I'm going to give a full review of in this video is Eloquent Rage by Brittany Cooper. This is a nonfiction book. A Black feminist discovers her superpower. So this is all about Black and white feminism and about the Black experience in the United States as well. There's a lot of issues that I feel like Brittany Cooper really nails in this book that I personally had never read about in other books about this same kind of topic. I do think that she has a unique point of view. I really enjoyed her writing style just because it was very accessible and very easy for me to understand some very complex things that she was talking about in this book. Had to give it 5 stars. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love the idea of eloquent rage and what that means. You'll just have to read the book to understand what that term means. But she also talks about having joy by the end, and yeah, I think it's great. Then the last 3 books that I read this month are actually a part of the historical romance readathon, which is going on while I'm filming this video. So that readathon started on June 28th and is going through to July 4th. So yeah, I'm just going to review those last 3 books of June in that historical romance readathon vlog. That will probably be posted at some point next week, but I'll just quickly mention the 3 books. First one was Surrender to Sin by Nicholas Davidson. This is book 1 in her Fallen series. This is an erotic historical romance novella, and it was really great. Gave this one 4 stars. Then after that, I went into While the Duke Was Sleeping, which is book 1 in Sophie Jordan's Rogue Files series. Also gave this 4 stars. This one has a pretty bonkers plot. Like I said, I'll get more into that in my reading vlog for the readathon. But it was also just a really fun time. Sophie Jordan has become a comfort read author for me, so yeah, really good. And then the last book that I finished in June was Love is a Rogue by Lenora Bell. Ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, honestly leaning more towards 3 stars. This was a sweet historical romance, but it was just, it didn't really blow me away in any particular way. So that is it for the 17 books that I read in the last half of June. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, or if you want to give me recommendations for books that are similar to the ones that I read for this wrap up. I always love talking to you guys in the comments. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!